Right folks, Trophy Tail Bucktails. Before we actually get to the tying of the bucktail, there's a few things that you need to have in your arsenal to make sure that this becomes as easy as possible. Let's start off with the most obvious thing, which is actually the jig head. Now, most good tackle shops, in fact all tackle shops, sell these as blanks. They come in various heads. This is a minnow head, probably the most popular head for tying bucktails. And then there's also the potbelly, which is quite a popular one. But for offshore and estuary fishing, I would say the minnow head, the one I've got in my hand, which is a blank, it looks to be a 3/8 on a 1/0 mustard hook. That's probably the most popular size. It takes a lot to get a hook from that to something like this. Now this is obviously a head that's been prepared for tying bucktails. This one happens to be a red and white, but then you also have an orange and white, and then even a plain white. You know, there's various combinations. You can actually use your full imagination here and decorate heads any which way you want. Right, after the actual lead heads themselves, the thing that most anglers forget to buy is actually a vise. Now you'll see in the video I'm using quite a fancy vise, but this one here has tied me thousands of bucktails. I still use it probably the most. It is portable, and that's what it's quite nice. It just goes onto any flat surface, and it's called a crown vise. I can order these for you at the shop, guys, if you are interested in getting into this hobby. Then of course the next thing is a selection of good color bucktail. And bucktail, there's a lot to learn. We won't go into it in this video, but there's a lot to learn in what to buy and what not to buy, how hard their hairs are, what length their hairs are. But they come in an array of colors, which again just leaves you as the builder of a bucktail to really do as many weird and wonderful combinations as you like. A little bit later we're going to be building us the black and orange combination on a black bucktail head. Right, then the next thing you're going to need is at least 1 or 2 cotton bobbins. Some of you will know these from the PR knot tying. It's a bit more elaborate than these. These are just your everyday bobbin holder, nothing expensive. The one with the orange cotton, again, I've probably had 8 or 9 years. You can see it's had a few repairs to it, and that's tied me thousands of bucktails. I will mention now that these cottons, and there's quite a few of them, there's again hundreds in these color ranges. You can see all the colors under the rainbow. Some of these have got glitter into them. They're quite expensive. So in the beginning I was tying complete bucktails out of the colors. They're also not as strong as some of the more sort of see-through or red fiber cottons. These are actually quite weak because of the glitter content in them. And to tie a full bucktail, the amount of snappages I was getting was crazy. And a bit of a logical mind said, source yourself some of this stuff, which is like a bait cotton, but it's a lot more brittle and stronger than a bait cotton. It's got zero stretch, obviously. And I tie a base coat in this, and then just to give it the aesthetic, I finish it off in the expensive colors. But yeah, you'll see more of that actually on the video. Then you need a good pair of scissors. Man, I've been through all the fly tying scissors, and you know, we cut a lot of hair. I've just found that a decent pair of braid scissors does the trick a lot better and lasts a hell of a lot longer than 20 or 30 bucks compared to hundreds of rands with some of the fly tying stuff. And then a craft knife, I can't emphasize, I use this with every bucktail just to trim back and neaten up, and I keep quite a supply of the blades as well. So these are the crucial tools. And then last but not least, a good concoction of resin. This is a little concoction I've done myself. You'll see that it is a nail varnish, a clear nail varnish. You will see there that it's slightly opaque. I add 1 or 2 of the Colonel's Secret sauces into here, and I'm yet to find a better resin than the stuff that I'm using now. Right, and that's basically it, folks. With what you see on the table here is enough to actually do yourself a pretty smart bucktail. Right folks, so we're actually going to start tying the bucktail now, and the first thing we do is we've chosen this black head. Remember, we're going for that orange and black pattern. We're going to put the actual back of the hook into the vise and just close that. Now what the vise enables us to do is obviously work a lot more comfortably. We can turn and articulate that and lock it into place whenever we want to do something. Right, for right now, what I'm going to do is just start off a base layer. And this is a clear, almost like bait cotton plastic, which I've found in a craft shop. And it's quite strong, and obviously it's a lot cheaper than some of the color ones. I do about 15-20 turns on that. It's just to really seat in the cotton, and then obviously make sure that when you start putting the hairs on, that the other layers of cotton have got something to grip into. The next thing I'm going to put on is a section of this Maymar flash. I certainly believe this one, which is the mother of pearl, and the pink colored one actually add a lot of flash in the tail of a bucktail. I've often seen my bucktails working a lot better than some of the other ones on the market, just by that little bit of flash in the center. Especially, it's very noticeable on the small gum-tooth garrick that we get quite a lot of. Okay, so again, just a couple of turns just to get that base level on, and our progress so far is basically the bucktail still dangling there, but the Maymar thread that we are going to build over. Okay, now the color of choice is going to be this orange, and from here we're going to select, this is actually quite a nice bucktail. It's a bit of a waste building these small bucktails with it, but let's not battle. So we want to select a piece about that long. There's going to be quite a bit of waste on this one, just to give you what we've got there. So there's the strip we're going to use. Now remember folks, I am left-handed and I have my arm in a sling at the moment. Don't tell my doctor I was doing this, but yeah, so if I look a bit awkward, I normally tie these in about 4 or 5 minutes. Understand what's happening here, we're being cack-handed. Right, so there you can see, let's just loosen. We've got the Maymar thread on. We're about to add the bucktail for the bottom. Let's get it going. Alright, and we simply put it on the top like this. Put one good layer down onto it. And then I normally stop there. Now what I like to do at this point is just have a look at the bucktail in my hand. I use the back of my thumb. I just press down, get those hairs distributed nicely across the full round of that back end of the actual jig, so much so that when you introduce the next color, you don't get a sort of a separation of the two colors. A little bit more on this side as well. Bring that down a bit. I think that will do that. Now some guys like to put a lot of hair on their bucktails, other guys a little bit less. There's no written rule. When I make bucktails for the shop or for clients, all I do there really is ask them how much the hair they want and build them accordingly. Right, we've just turned the whole thing around now. We're going to put in the black, and again here I just find a nice suitable, this is a bit more manageable in its length. Just find a nice little tuft that I'm going to use, maybe a little bit more. You can always filter some out as you go along. Let's just give that a cut with the scissors. Drop that out the way. Right, and there we have it. What I like to do here is just get it together and get all the straggly ends out. You'll find that there's quite a lot of hair that doesn't go all the way to the tail of it. And when you hold the back of the hair and pinch between your thumb and finger and just lightly brush it like that, all the short pieces come out, and there we go, we're done. Right, we have turned the bucktail over, so now we're very simply going to go measure that up, which would be about there, pinch it down with the other hand and bring over our wrappings again. Now remember just to do about 10 or 15 wraps, don't secure it all the way down, and then flatten down the two bucktails so that the two merge nicely. So just like we did on the last one, basically what we're doing there is just pinching it down between your thumb and forefinger, fanning it a bit. Alright, almost there. I would think that would probably do that. Okay, You can see that flash already coming through in the tail there. There's nothing more evil than that cutting through the water. Right, we're just going to put a bit more of this clear on, and then what I'm going to do is actually switch over to that orange binding and then finish off the bucktail in the... Okay, now that we've completed that binding, well enough to get the bucktail to this point, what we're going to do is just trim off the clear cotton that we were using as the strength part of the bind, and we do that simply by putting a little loop in here. We spoke about that loop earlier, and bringing that back and putting that through the cotton, through the loop that you've created. There it comes, there it comes. Okay, holding that up and then just pulling that through. Right, you can trim that off. Right, the next thing we're going to do is take the bucktail out. Just make sure that we're happy with the binding that we've got on there. Everything looks quite good on this one. We're now going to take our Stanley blade and we're just going to clean all the excess hair that we're not going to use. And I just simply, not a Stanley knife but a craft knife, and we're just going to run it on the edge of the actual binding that you've done. And the hair, this is where the glasses comes into play. A few years ago I would tie 30-40 bucktails in a day without having to use glasses, reading glasses. Well, that's changed quickly. Right, there you go. So you can see pretty much all the excess hair. Remember I mentioned those hairs were pretty long, and we certainly didn't need them for those bucktails, for these little guys. Those would have worked perfectly on the big 2-ounce bucktails. Right, there we go. Okay, so that being done now comes the cosmetic bit. We're going to put the bucktail back in the vise. I like to work on it on the side like that. Let's just get rid of that last hair there. Now we're going to come with the actual orange, which complements this little bucktail pattern quite nicely. And we're just going to come in here and do a full wrap. Right, so there we go. You can see that we've got a couple of turns on these now, and the actual gold or orange cotton is now starting to dominate the underwrap, and starting to look like a nice color contrasting bucktail. Let's just have a look. Maybe we can have a look around, and I think we're pretty much there. Right, so now we're just going to finish off with a few more of those. Remember folks that this is the expensive cottons. Cheaper one is at the bottom. It's a lot harder and stronger, that latex one, and that's done all the actual binding work for you. This top layer was really just a cosmetic. It's a lot softer cotton, so when you're tying bucktails with this stuff, it tends to snap for no reason a lot. So that's why I first do the underwrap and then follow it with the actual color. Okay, so we're doing exactly the same as what we did before. What we've done here is we have put that pull through, done a couple of turns over that pull through, and this is just to finish off. We're now going to bring our color underneath that loop and then pull the 2 tags, and out comes our wrap. Okay, and then just trim it off with your scissors, and there we have it, folks. Just get that all positioned nicely, and there we have it. 1 times nice bucktail, straight out of the press. We've got a bit of work to do with that. Look how nice that flash is coming through there. Let's just get it onto the other side of that hook. Let's put it in the palm again. One more job to do, and that's just to give it a protective varnish layer. Look at that. Isn't that just a thing of beauty? Man, oh man. I envy the first angler that's going to get to use this guy in whichever river. Right, let's quickly get some resin onto that, just to finish it off, to seal it up and make sure that bucktail stays good and true for years to come. Right folks, so there the bucktail is tied. We'll just take it out of the vise. We've clipped off all the excess of the binding, and boy oh boy, there she's looking nice. Remember this color that we added at the end now is purely just to make it look attractive to you, the angler. The actual hard part of the binding was done by the clear stuff right at the bottom, the clearer, stronger stuff. Right, there's only one last thing to do now, and that's to give this guy a bit of a coating. So let's put him back into there. Got the Colonel Secret sauce here, which we're going to add. And what I normally do, folks, is just do it in my hand, and I do it something like this. Pull back all the hair on there, get a good wallop of it, and the first area I see to is the actual binding. Now this is probably going to take more than just one layer. You're going to find you're going to come back to that probably 3 or 4 times just to get that nice professional finish. You know, it looks okay like this, but the more layers that you put on, the smoother and more pro it looks. I like to get some into the actual eye there. The eyes are all super glued in, but the more resin you have around it, the better. So I get quite a wallop into the eye cavity there, and I just cover the body just to give it that glossy effect. Again, this is all for the angler. And then on the belly here is probably the spot that takes the greatest abuse, bouncing off rocks and sandy bottoms and whatnot. So here I also put 2 or 3 layers on. So as many times as I'll come back to this now, like I have done for the, like I will do at least for the binding, so I'll come back for a little bit more resin over the eyes and over the belly of the bucktail. And there it is. You'll see some better shots in the photograph, but there we go. Hang it up to dry, and one bucktail, all that done.